If you've ever found yourself deep in a qualitative research project, you know the feeling. You're just surrounded by this mountain of interviews, articles, and field notes, and somehow you've got to turn all of that chaos into a clear, coherent story. Well, today we're going to dive into exactly that, the journey from chaos to clarity.
And this quote from Lynn Richards just absolutely nails it, doesn't it? Getting the data, doing the interviews, finding the documents, that's often the exciting part. But the real challenge, the part that probably keeps you up at night, is taming all of it. It's about turning that messy, overwhelming pile of information into something you can actually work with.
And let's be honest, it really is a deluge. It's not a trickle of information, it's a flood. The sheer volume and variety of data coming at you can feel, well, completely overwhelming. So what does that flood actually look like?
I mean, your project is never just one neat little stack of papers, right? It's a sprawling collection of stuff. You've got your interview transcripts where just 1 hour can turn into 25 pages of text. You've got survey responses, dozens of PDFs, audio clips, video files, messy field notes, social media data, photos. It's all crucial, but it is all over the place.
So this is the big question, isn't it? Buried somewhere inside all of this complexity, all this noise, there's a story. There are patterns and themes just waiting to be found. But how in the world do you find them without getting completely lost?
Well, this is where a dedicated tool comes into play. We're talking about NVivo here, and the best way to think about it is not just as a piece of software, but as your digital research hub. It's basically the central command center for your entire project.
The very first step toward getting any kind of clarity is just getting everything in one place. NVivo gives you a single, secure container to bring all those different materials together. So no more jumping between 20 different folders, random apps, and loose documents. Everything lives right there in one project file.
But this is about way more than just storage. You can build a folder structure that actually makes sense for your project. You can keep a research journal right inside the project to track your thoughts as they evolve, which is so important for transparency. And you can start linking ideas and files together. It really transforms your stuff from a random collection into this organized, interconnected web of information.
Okay, so once everything is organized, we can finally get to the real heart of qualitative analysis. It's a process that can feel a bit like magic, but it's actually a really powerful systematic method called coding. To put it simply, coding is kind of like using a set of superpowered digital highlighters. You go through all your materials, transcripts, videos, whatever, and you tag passages with a concept or a theme. This lets you gather everything you have about a single topic, like community change, all in one place with just a click.
Let's look at a quick real-world example from a project on environmental change. Here's a raw quote from an interview. The person says, "Well, I'm an island burger." It's an interesting response for sure, but on its own, what it really means isn't obvious.
But now look what happens after we've coded it. That same phrase is now tagged with the concepts of identity and place. And we've added an annotation that explains that island burger isn't a typo. It's this cool local term for someone with deep roots in 2 specific places. And just like that, a single, kind of confusing word is suddenly rich with meaning. This is what coding does. It adds layers of your analysis right on top of your data.
Okay, so this is where the real payoff begins. Once your data is organized and coded, you can start asking it some really complex questions and connecting the dots in ways that would be almost impossible to do by hand.
For instance, you can instantly see how different groups of people talk about the exact same topic. So when people in this study discussed community change, the urban residents were focused on things like real estate and infrastructure. But the rural residents, they talked about the natural environment and family history. Same concept, but with vastly different meanings for each group, a distinction NVivo makes super clear.
You can even start to, quantify your qualitative data. This chart shows us something called percentage coverage, which is basically just what percentage of a person's entire interview was about a specific theme. Here, we can see that the theme of balance was a massive part of the conversation for Betty and Paul, almost 70%, but it was way less important for Ken. This is such a powerful way to spot patterns.
And we can even take it a step further. We can ask the software a question like, hey, what themes pop up most often when people are talking about negative experiences? And boom, it instantly generates this visualization for us. It shows that when people in the study discussed negative things, they were also frequently talking about jobs, water, and the government. This is how you start to build real theories about how different ideas are connected.
So it's about more than just finding patterns. Using a tool like this really just improves the entire research process. It supercharges it with new levels of rigor, transparency, and collaboration. Because every single analytical decision you make can be logged, you end up with this crystal clear audit trail that makes your work so much more transparent. It lets teams easily compare their coding to make sure everyone's on the same page. And of course, it helps you create these compelling visualizations to share what you found. It really just elevates your entire research practice.
And this is so crucial. All of this rigor and transparency, it isn't just about doing better analysis. It's about upholding the core ethical principles of research, like the ones from the Belmont Report. When you manage your data this securely and systematically, you're just better equipped to protect your participants, minimize harm, and ensure the whole process is handled with integrity. So, we'll leave you with this question. Every transcript, every image, every note you take, it all contains a piece of a much larger story. The real challenge isn't just to collect that data. It's to have the right tools and the right methods in place to truly listen to what it has to say.